Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So, this question was asked of me 12 years ago, and the words of the question literally still send a chill down my spine more than a decade later. And it was the first day of school, August 23rd, 2013, and there was a sixth grader named Leo, and Leo was the only kid on his bus. His district was a little further out from the school, and it's a small bus, and Leo was the only kid on the bus. And so on that first day of school, the bus came, and you know how it is. It used to be that buses, they had the name of the school district on the side, but now with the different bus companies, many of them will say like ABC Transportation or, whatever the name of the company is. And then there might be multiple buses with that same thing on the side sitting out in front of your school. So Leo gets on the bus with, ABC Bus Company on the side. That bus leaves. And then about 5 minutes later, another bus pulls up, ABC Bus Company, and it says, "Hey, I'm here to pick up this Leo," and gave his last name. And we're like, "Oh, what's going on? And what bus is Leo on? Like, whose bus did he get on?" And so we go in to the building, the school building, we call, and of course it's the first day of school at like 3:30 p.m., so of course we get a busy signal. The bus driver is trying to reach the bus garage on his walkie-talkie and isn't getting anybody, so on and so forth. And now I don't know what bus Leo is on. This guy's saying, "Yeah, that was a new driver. Not sure." And so I have to pick up the phone and call Leo's mom and describe the situation. And then Leo's mom said to me, "So are you saying that you have no idea where my child is right now?" And I had to say, "Yes, that's correct." And the way that this story ended was this school district had kind of messed up, and then the bus company had kind of messed up, and they sent two drivers to our private school to pick up one child. And there was poor communication, and we had to call the police in the local school district because the bus company, once we finally could get through, they couldn't reach the driver of the bus that Leo was on his walkie-talkie or radio, and we didn't know where he was. And it was awful, but it had a very happy ending, and Leo was none the wiser. Like, he eventually got home. That driver got lost, and then he wasn't at the bus stop where he needed to be, all the things, okay? Could have had a much different ending, but that moment when Leo's mom said, "So are you saying you have no idea where my child is right now?" Like I said, still sends chills down my spine. And I don't want you to ever be in that situation, ever. And so on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, I'm going to teach you some strategies so that you never have to say yes to the following question. So are you saying that you have no idea where my child is right now? So before we jump into today's topic, I want you to stop and think about your life on the last day of school or on your life 1 year from today. And I want you to think about how you would feel if the following things were true about you. Number one, my days are rarely controlled by the tyranny of the urgent, and I actually work on my important tasks almost every day. That'd be pretty awesome. What if a year from today you could say, I no longer feel guilty that my family gets what's left of me because I'm spending quality time with them and I'm truly present? Okay. What about a year from today you could say, most days I leave at a decent time with some energy left for my family and for myself? Or what if you could say a year from today, I'm no longer checking my work email all day long at school or all evening at home? And just two more. What if you could say a year from today, I've created sustainable boundaries between school and home, and it's actually rare to have a school issue or a parent living rent-free in my head? And then finally, what if a year from today you could say, I have a happy and fulfilling career, and I want to be a private school leader for a long time? Well, right now, as you're listening to that, that probably sounds like a fairy tale or some kind of science fiction or a dream. But I created the PSL Pro membership to make that a reality and give you a step-by-step framework that you can follow to make that dream a reality. Because PSL Pro is a membership community that helps private school leaders go from feeling stressed out, discouraged, and lonely to feeling energized and fulfilled. And we have a thriving community of school leaders all over the United States who actually get it and get you. And we go live once a week for a masterclass or a group coaching session. We have 2 We Get It roundtable sessions a month. We have a live Q&A session about everything and anything related to private school leadership. And so you get that community aspect. You can post in the community, but those live meetups have been fantastically transformational for the PSL Pro members. And then on top of that, Thrive Academy is baked into PSL Pro, and you get a PSL Pro success path, and that's your step-by-step plan to get you from where you are to get you to where you want to be. And so all those things that I mentioned a moment ago, a year from today, PSL Pro can help you get there. And there's different levels on the success path. Maybe you start out as the overwhelmed drifter or the intentional architect, but it gets you all the way to the top of the pyramid as the fulfilled mentor. You choose your level, you have a step-by-step plan, and you use the content of Thrive Academy, and then you get the guidance and support from me and from the other members of PSL Pro, and it is awesome. And so I'd love for you to be a part of that. Everything that I just described, $1 a day is the price. You can learn more about PSL Pro community at theprivateschoolleader.com/membership. The PSL Pro membership community, check that out at theprivateschoolleader.com/membership. And then quickly, I want to give you a free gift just to say thank you for listening to the podcast. This one's called 7 Strategies to Effectively Deal with Difficult Teachers. If you're listening in real time, we're kind of early in the school year, but maybe you already have some difficult teachers that are on your radar, and we need courage and confidence to deal with those difficult teachers, but you also need a plan. And so this guide is a step-by-step plan that you can use to help one or more of your difficult teachers improve their performance and improve their attitude. So go to theprivateschoolleader.com/difficult and grab your free guide, 7 Strategies to Effectively Deal with Difficult Teachers. That's theprivateschoolleader.com/difficult. So I told you that I don't want you to ever have to answer this question ever in your career when a parent says to you, so are you saying that you have no idea where my child is right now? I don't want you to ever have to answer that question and say yes. And so we're going to break this down into 3 parts. I want you to have an actual plan of knowing where your students are at all times. Number 1, during the school day. Number 2, at dismissal and after dismissal. And number 3, after sporting events, especially away sporting events. So at my school, we had this health and phys ed teacher, Mr. Helfer, that was there for decades. And he had a saying when something could have gone wrong and it didn't. He says, well, we were lucky, not good. And I don't want you to be in a situation where you were lucky, but not good. And of course, what Mr. Helfer meant was Well, we got lucky. It wasn't because we had a plan. It wasn't because we had a clipboard and a check off and a list and a this and a that. We got lucky. And so we're going to have a plan. So let's start by talking about knowing where your kids are during the school day. And you're like, well, why would I have to answer the question to a parent of you're saying you don't know where my child is? Okay. I want to give you a couple of scenarios and then paint this picture for you very vividly because I don't want you in this situation. Okay. So when I was head of school for 21 years in the building in the main office, we had a nice new big PA system. And it was a big piece of equipment, and you could click and buzz every room individually. You could talk to a certain hallway of rooms. You could talk to a certain floor. You could talk to the whole school. Okay, it was great. But it was right there in the main office, and about, 8 or 9 feet away was the counter where a parent would be standing there and say, hey, I need to pick up Jimmy for his dentist appointment. Okay. So then I go over. And right there is a little binder with with all the student schedules in it. And so I look it up and I see that he's supposed to be in room 206 for math, let's say. Okay. So I buzz room 206. Hey, Jimmy's mom's here. He has a early dismissal. And then the person would be like, well, he's not in here. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. So the parent's standing there. I buzz the room where Jimmy's supposed to be. Where's Jimmy? Okay, so there could be a lot of reasons. Maybe Jimmy was held back after the previous class and he's not there yet. Maybe the schedule was changed and the schedule is wrong. But now here I am. I'm starting to feel my heart rate go up, my blood pressure go up, and the parent's standing there kind of looking like, okay, haha, awkwardly. And so I buzz another room. No, he's not here. I thought he had an early dismissal. And it's like, yeah, he does. He has an early dismissal. And so then we eventually find him after, I buzzed 3 rooms. And I'm not saying that happened every time. Most of the time it worked fine. But I want you to put yourself in that situation. So one scenario is inside the school, parent comes for an early dismissal, and we're buzzing a room, whether it's on a PA system or if your PA system is through the phones in the classrooms or however you're communicating, and the child isn't where they're supposed to be. Okay. Second scenario is that the parent, again, standing in the office, there for the early dismissal, and the kids are on the playground or eating lunch outside if it's nice weather. And, okay, so what's your system for getting their child to them for that early dismissal? And they're already a little bit stressed because parents are always running late. There's traffic. It's usually for an appointment, and those appointments you don't want to be late for. And what's the system? What's the plan? How are we communicating? So let's talk about inside of your school building and then outside of your school building, and just kind of give you some strategies for how you can always make sure you know where your kids are, okay? So the first and most important thing, I think, with this is that those schedules, they have to be 100% accurate. You can't, at the beginning of the year, there are changes. This kid moved from this math class to that math class, or this class was too big and we didn't have as many desks as we need, and that's the max capacity for that room, and so we moved this child to that their schedule changed. Okay, well, what's your system at school for when schedules change, for those to be accurate for the registrar or the office administrator or the school secretary or the receptionist or whatever title your office manager person has? They're the ones that are buzzing that room to get that child. Now, it might not be that they're buzzing them and the pressure is on because the parent's standing there and the parent's late for an appointment. It might be that you just need them to come down to take their pill at lunchtime, or the parent dropped off their trombone or their lunch or their clothes for practice or whatever, but it's still, do we know where our kids are? Those schedules have to be accurate. And so here's another way that you can make sure that happens. your teachers need to be super clear on a couple of things. Okay, here's the first thing your teachers need to be super clear on. Let's say that it is 7th grade math and it is Peyton. And Peyton is staying after class because the teacher actually, the 7th grade math teacher kept Peyton after class for just a couple minutes to answer a question about something. Okay, fine. Peyton is going to language arts way down at the other end of the hallway. Well, that teacher is getting ready to start class. Peyton's not there. Who knows where Peyton is? Well, I'll tell you who's going to try and help you with that are all the students. Okay? And they're not going to be very helpful because they're going to say 5 different things. Oh, she's in the bathroom, or she had an early dismissal, or I thought I saw that she got, that the teacher asked her to stay behind after math class. So the procedure in your school, in my opinion, should be that if a teacher keeps a kid after class, that immediately they ask the child, where are you headed? Where's your next class? And she says 7th grade language arts. Okay, no problem. 7th grade math teacher buzzes the 7th grade language arts classroom and says, hey, I have Peyton here for a few minutes. Okay, no problem. Now we know where Peyton is. Because think about it. If in that first 3 minutes of class, it just so happens that the dad is there to pick up Peyton to go somewhere, if you buzz 7th grade language arts, the 7th grade language arts teacher knows where Peyton is. Buzz the math 7 room. We have to communicate. We have to communicate. Okay? And then the second thing about teachers knowing where our kids are is that teachers have to take attendance every period when students are changing classes. So once your kids get to the age in your school, whether that's 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, some schools it's 3rd grade, when kids are changing classes, if they're walking there on their own, I'm not talking about specials in lower school, because those teachers, they've done a head count, they know how many kids they have, they're walking them to art, and they say, okay, I've got 22, and then they hand them off to the art teacher. I'm not talking about that. Kids who travel on their own to class, I feel strongly that receiving teachers need to take attendance at the beginning of every period and compare it to the absentee list and the early dismissal list, and make sure that they understand that the weight of the fact that they are responsible for those children during that 40-minute period. So let me give you an example. Let's say that there's a student named Samantha that isn't feeling well, okay? So Samantha is in 8th grade, and after social studies during the class change, she goes in the bathroom. And she's still in the bathroom. She's supposed to be going to Science 8 from Social Studies 8, and Samantha's in the bathroom, and now it's 5 minutes, 7 minutes into Science 8, but the Science 8 teacher didn't take attendance. We don't know where Samantha is. Okay? Social Studies teacher, as far as he knows, she was in class. The Science 8 teacher, as far as she knows, she doesn't know because she didn't take attendance. Okay? But if she were to take attendance and see, okay, well, Samantha's not in here. She's not on the absentee list. She's not on the early dismissal list. What most teachers, I tell them to do in that situation is buzz the office. Does anyone know? So then, because the Science 8 teacher, I know this might be a little hard to follow, but hang with me here. The Science 8 teacher, she doesn't necessarily know Samantha's schedule. She doesn't know that she was just in social studies. But if you buzz down to the main office, the person picking up that phone on his or her desk can quickly look up Samantha's schedule and see that she had social studies the period before, and then buzz the social studies room, and then the social studies teacher's like, yeah, Samantha's here. She didn't seem like she was feeling well. Okay, now what's the next step? Probably an administrator or a nurse on the walkie-talkie is going to go look for Samantha, right? and then find her that she's in the bathroom and not feeling well, and then we get her to the nurse, and so on and so forth. But 40 minutes could have gone by, or 60 minutes, however long your periods are, and she could have been in the bathroom, not feeling well, God forbid, passed out, what have you. We need to take attendance, and not just because sometimes kids skip class, and oh, well, that doesn't happen very often in my school. I mean, okay, but we need to know where our students are. And then finally, as far as knowing where our kids are inside the building, is when you're sending a student to the nurse. So let's say that it is 5th grade, and it is 5th grade language arts, and the teacher is sending Jacob to the nurse. Okay? So the teacher, let's say the teacher's name is Charlotte. Charlotte, the teacher, sends Jacob down to the nurse. All right. But the nurse doesn't know that Jacob's on his way. So what happens if Jacob gets dizzy in the stairwell and sits down and he's just sitting there and he's nauseous? We're not going to do that. What we're going to do, and most of you probably already do this, but what Charlotte's going to do is when she's sending Jacob down, she's going to buzz the nurse and say, hey, Jacob's on his way. He's not feeling well. Nurse says, okay, thanks. And then she works with Jacob for whatever length of time, blah, 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 and then when he's feeling a little better, then the nurse buzzes the language arts classroom, the teacher, Charlotte, she answers the phone, and the nurse says, Jacob's on his way back. Okay, great. Now we know where Jacob is the whole time. Because when the 5th grade language arts teacher buzzes the nurse, she has sort of this like mental clock that starts to click. She's expecting Jacob. Well, she's not expecting Jacob if no one buzzes her, right? And likewise, when the nurse buzzes Charlotte, the 5th grade language arts teacher, and says, Jacob's on his way back, then Charlotte's little mental internal clock goes off and knows that within a certain amount of time, depending on the distance, that he's probably going to be walking through the door. We know where he is. So during the day, knowing where our kids are has to do with the schedule being accurate in the main office, the teachers taking attendance, teachers who keep a kid after class, buzzing their next period teacher's class by asking the child, where are you headed? And then if we're sending a kid to the nurse. Okay. What about outside on campus during the day? Okay. Teachers, this would be recess. This would be outdoor lunch. Or this could be, it's a beautiful day and it's 6th period, and the, let's say the 4th grade science teacher decides to take the class outside, and there's some gardens, like some planter boxes where there's some vegetables growing and this and that, and they're doing something about soil in 4th grade language arts and about how plants grow and whatever. They're going to go outside. Okay? So that's the scenario. Kids are out on campus, but they're outdoors. And now a parent appears and is like, I'm here to pick up Billy for early dismissal. Okay. So just a couple of things. And again, for many of you, for most of you, this is going to be a no-brainer, and this is what we do. But I want to stimulate your thinking because maybe there's a blind spot. Maybe there's a gap. We're trying to close the gaps, right? So what I would always do is I would identify a recess coordinator. So at my most recent school, where I was a division head of intermediate and middle school for 12 years, I was responsible for the recess and lunch of those 4th through 8th graders. And so I would pick a recess coordinator of my, let's say I had 5 people on recess duty. I would pick the person who I felt could best handle that situation and be a real detail-oriented person, so on and so forth. And I would make sure that that person had a walkie-talkie. And then the procedure was known by all of the teachers on recess duty that you need to go see her. I'm thinking of Eileen for several years, the music teacher. Eileen is going to then, she's the one, let's say if you're sending a kid to the nurse, because kids get hurt at recess, right? I sprained my ankle. And so What are we going to do? We're going to say, let's talk about sending a kid to the nurse right now, and then we'll talk about getting a kid if a parent's there for early dismissal. I know I started talking about Billy, but we'll come back to that. So let's say that a child sprains their ankle. Let's say it is Jeremiah. Jeremiah sprains his ankle. They go over to Eileen, the music teacher, and she says, Eileen to Nurse Taylor. Go for Nurse Taylor is what Nurse Taylor says. Jeremiah fell and hurt his ankle. I'm sending Jeremiah in with Mason. Okay. Nurse Taylor says copy. And now her clock starts to tick that someone buzzes them in with their fob, and Jeremiah and Mason are headed down to Nurse Taylor. Okay. Now, she deals with him for a bit, and now she buzzes and says, Nurse Taylor to recess, and Eileen or one of the other people that have a walkie-talkie say, go for recess. I'm sending Jeremiah and Mason back to recess. Copy that. Okay, see what we did there? A kid that's hurt gets the nurse to check it out. The nurse doesn't have to run all over campus and go to the kid. If the kid's capable, we would send the kid to the nurse with a friend, but we would make sure that the communication took place so that she had that time, little clock ticking in her head so that she knew, and then we were communicating that we're sending them back. Again, this might be a no-brainer for you, but I don't think it's a no-brainer for everybody. I'm looking for your gaps. I'm looking for your blind spots. I'm trying to stimulate your thinking. Okay. Now, what if a parent shows up in the office for an early dismissal and they're here to pick up Sadie? Sadie's in 5th grade. Again, very similar. The office manager or the registrar or the receptionist or the administrative assistant, whoever, they buzz that, let's say they say Jill to recess. Go for recess. Yes, Sadie has an early dismissal. Copy that, sending her down. And then that person, either the recess coordinator or the way we did it was we had a playground, and then there was a set of stairs that went up to a big soccer field that was a little bit elevated from the playground. I had one person on the playground had a walkie. I had one person on the field had a walkie. We can find her pretty quickly, get her buzzed in with the fob, and she goes and gets her stuff and goes to the main office. Okay? So lastly, on outside is when there are I mentioned before the scenario is it's a beautiful day, and the science teacher wants to take the kids out to the gardens, or let's say that it is science class, and they're going to the picnic tables because they're going to have class outside. Okay. So what we did was we had a walkie-talkie charging station bolted to the wall near the exit that most people use to go out to the gardens or to the greenhouse or to the soccer field or to the playground or to the picnic tables. And so the teachers knew that this was a procedure, that if, let's say it's the science teacher, she's taking the kids out, she's taking 6A out to the picnic tables, okay? So she's walking out, she grabs the walkie-talkie on her way past. Let's say math teacher says, Christine to main office, go for the main office. 6A will be at the picnic tables. Copy that. Now everyone knows where 6A is, okay? And then at the end of the period, on their way back into the building, Christine says, Christine to main office, go for main office. 6A coming back in, copy that. And then she puts the walkie-talkie back on the charging station. That whole time, if a parent shows up to pick up a kid and you're buzzing the empty classroom, okay, this is the picture I want to paint for you. If if that 6A group is out at the picnic tables and the teacher doesn't buzz the main office to say that they're going outside, you could buzz every class in the school building and you're not going to find 6A, and you're not going to find the kid in 6A that parent is there to pick up. And if they're not saying it, they're standing there thinking, geez, what's going on? They don't even know where my kid is. But that one procedure closes that loop so that we always know where they are. And then, oh, by the way, because the 6A teacher has a walkie-talkie, if there's an early dismissal, we can get her on the walkie-talkie. If we need a kid to come take their pill or to pick up something or whatever it is, we know where 6A is. We can buzz them on the walkie-talkie, and it isn't scrambling looking for kids all over the place. Okay. And then finally, I want to just talk for a couple minutes about, I want to talk about dismissal and then spend a few minutes talking about our sports, especially away games. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on dismissal, and here's why. Even though I led at the top of the episode with Leo and having to say yes to his mother when she said, so what you're saying is you don't have any idea where my kid is right now. Every school kind of has a different system. Some of you have an app. Some of you have something that is part of your student information management system. But, if you have, I don't know, at our school, we had walkers, we had carpool, we had buses, we had kids who were in after school sports. We had lower school kids who were in after school activities like chess or Mighty Mites soccer or, mad science or all the things. Okay. How do we know where our kids are after school? Do you have an airtight system? And so, like I said, rather than spending a lot of time on that, because every school has something different, of course, I just want to shine a light on this, and I just think it's even so much more important to know where those kids are and to be able to say, if a parent calls, parent calls at 4 o'clock, and their kid was supposed to get off the bus at 3:45, but their kid didn't get off the bus, and they're there, and they're starting to panic. And they call the school, and they ask, my child was supposed to get off the bus 10 minutes ago. The bus came by. It didn't get off the bus. And I called the bus garage, and they got the radio driver on his radio, and he said, yes, she wasn't on the bus today. Okay. Do you know where that kid is? Do you know they're in chess? Do you know that they're on the soccer field? Do you know that she is in the gym practicing for the spring musical? How do you know where your kids are after school? What is your system? I'm going to give you one example, and then I'm going to give you another suggestion. Okay, so this could be, I can hear what some of you are saying. You're like, look, Mark, we're a small operation. We don't have apps. We don't have all this, different things. Okay, well, how about we kick it old school, and I just tell you about what we did with a clipboard, okay? We would have in the cafeteria, we called it the bus room at the end of the day. And let's say that this certain bus 27, there's 18 kids on the bus. There's 22 kids that are on the roster for the bus, but there's only 18 kids that are on the bus for today. All right. So you print out the roster, you line up the kids for bus 27, whoever's in the bus room, they're checking kids off. They figure out where are these other 4 kids? Why aren't they there? Okay. What's your system for communicating that? Again, you don't need an app for it to be that the person in the office prints off a piece of paper that has all those names, and then next to those 4 kids, it says chess, spring musical, soccer. Okay. So I got 18 out of 22. I'm going to check them off as they're in line. And then we would have a person out at the bus circular drive with the buses and just be like, hey, I got 18 coming out for bus 27, copy that. And then that person would count 18 kids and they would get on the bus and then would turn in that piece of paper back to the office. So that if someone called at 4 o'clock and said, hey, where's so-and-so? We could say they got on the bus. We know that for a fact. Are you at your school? Let's pause. Are you lucky or are you good? Are you lucky or are you good when it comes to knowing the answers to these questions? Okay? Okay, so, who's in carpool? Who's a walker? So forth. Let's say that you're sitting there and you're listening to this and you're just like, oh boy, we really need some work in this area. I don't even know where to begin. Okay. Go to ChatGPT, type in a whole bunch of stuff. We're a school of this size with this many-ish walkers and this many-ish drivers and this many-ish carpool and these after-school activities. Create a comprehensive system for reporting and accountability and closing the loop on knowing where all of our kids are at all time, and hit enter. And I'm not saying you copy and paste that and that's your policy, but I'm saying that would be a pretty good start if you have nothing and right now you're lucky, not good. Okay, so just try that. And I'm talking to a lot of people right now who have a really good system at the end of the day. Awesome. Just make sure that you're following it to the letter every single day, because we have to know where our kids are. Okay. And then I want to wrap it up just with talking about sporting events, especially away games. So let me give you 2 quick scenarios. It's an away soccer game. It's a middle school soccer game. You're playing a team across town. We're not even going to get into how they got there, because carpooling, that's its whole thing with liability in your state and insurance and clearances and blah, blah. Let's just keep it simple and say that a bus from your school took them across town to play at this soccer game. But you also have, let's say that there's 25 kids on the soccer team, and that all 25 of them rode the bus to get to the game. But you and I both know that there's going to be a lot of parents of those 25 kids that are going to leave work and go straight to the game and are going to be there at the game. Okay? 25 kids rode to the game. The game ends. Everybody scatters. Parents, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Good game, blah, blah. And the coach is there cleaning up, picking up the balls and the water bottles and whatever. And now there's 5 kids that are wanting to get on the bus to go back to the school. Where are the other 20 kids? Okay? What is your system for knowing who went where? And you could probably say, well, they probably went with their parents, or this kid probably caught a ride with his best friend's dad, or just whatever. But it's like, okay, but what is your system for knowing where those kids are? Okay, another scenario. This is on your campus. We had a Little Lions cheer squad that was 3rd and 4th graders, and they're cheering in the gym for one of the games. And then after the game, 3rd and 4th graders, especially if they're cheering and it's their first season of cheering and it's cute, and lots of parents come. Big hit, okay? But those kids are super excited to see their parents as soon as the game clock hits 0, and kids just scatter, okay? So there's 15 kids on the Little Lions cheer squad. The coach is over here in the corner collecting the pom-poms and the whatever. And then turn around and there's 3 kids standing there that their parents didn't come to the game. Okay, where are the 12 other kids? Who did they go home with? It is not acceptable for the answer to be, I'm not sure. Okay? And so just a couple of quick suggestions. Again, this can be an old school solution. It can be a clipboard with the names on it of the 25 kids that were on the bus going over to the middle school soccer game across town, and that it is a rule on the team that after the game, the coach, that the parents know that they have to come over, stand next to their kid, get the coach's attention. Coach gives them a thumbs up. Coach is standing there with the clipboard, crossing off those kids or writing parent next to it or whatever your system is. But just imagine coach with clipboard, parent coming, like checking out or signing out, quote unquote, their kid or this other kid too that lives down the street from us, and this third kid that lives down the street from us. I'm taking these 3 kids with me. Okay, great. Check them off, check them off, check them off. Miss Williams, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Williams. Fine. Okay. That Little Lions cheer squad, the kids are scattering. What we did was we literally trained the girls and boys who were on the squad that they needed to come over in this corner. And they were so excited that I trained and rehearsed with the coach that when there was 20 seconds left in the game, we didn't let it count all the way down to 0 so that the kids could then all get excited and scatter. When there's 15, 20 seconds left in the game, we would kind of shepherd and herd the 3rd and 4th grade cheer squad kids over into a corner with their backpacks. And then the cheer squad coach would be standing in between the kids and the parents with a clipboard. And, okay, yes, you can check out. Okay, yes. And so we are in this situation where we are responsible for children. My question for you as we look at our big takeaways, do you have a plan? Is your plan working? Do you know where your students are at all times? So during the school day, classrooms, you got to have schedules in the main office. You got to have teachers who are taking attendance at the beginning of each period for students who change classes. And if teachers are keeping a kid after class, they have to buzz the room of the kid's next class. When we're on campus during the school day, but kids are outside, it's got to be a walkie-talkie at recess or at outdoor lunch, or if a teacher is taking a class outside and they're communicating that to the office. With dismissal, knowing where all your kids are, what's your system? Is your system working? Is it airtight? Do we have our A-team that's really on top of this so that we always know where kids are and in what manner did they leave our campus? And then finally, after sporting events, home events, especially those away games, what's the system? And are the coaches following that to the letter? So your call to action is to just take 15 minutes sometime in the next week. Think about your systems for these 3 areas: on campus, dismissal, and sports away, especially away games. And then pick the spot that needs the most attention and then implement one of these strategies, or have a meeting with the office staff or have a meeting with the athletic director to tighten up that area so that you know where your kids are. Okay, quick reminder, you can learn more about how to join the PSL Pro membership by going to theprivateschoolleader.com/membership. And then another reminder is that you can grab the 7 strategies to effectively deal with difficult teachers. Just go to theprivateschoolleader.com/difficult for that free guide. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at mark.o.minkus@gmail.com and let me know about a strategy that you're using, or maybe your biggest pain point so far this year, and maybe it becomes an upcoming episode. The show notes are at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 150. I'm on Instagram at theprivateschoolleader. And if you got value from this episode, I'd love for you to share the podcast with another leader or another rising leader at your school, and let's get that information out there to as many leaders as possible. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I appreciate you so much and all the amazing hard work that you're doing for those lucky kids and lucky teachers at your school. Thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to join me here today. And I'll see you next time right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.